Who would have thought Dao Chinese restaurant was a fantastic place to stay for the night? The shower was perfect, the internet was so fast it wasn't funny. I uploaded a 1.5 gig file in 20 minutes and bed was comfortable. It's a beautiful day. It's an absolutely amazing day actually. But Hanny and I are walking over to the press room. They've always got a buffet at the press room, which is awesome. So we're gonna go over there.
Not as good as the Giro though. Not
as good as the Giro, yeah. Hanny's, we were talking in the car on the way here and Hannah was saying that she's come to the conclusion that the Giro has a better setup, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just a little bit more relaxed and accommodating than the Tour.
Yeah.
But that's understandable though, because the Tour is such a big thing. But
and you know, the media people obviously running the Giro, they're a lot friendlier, and aren't they? They're just
just the whole feel about it.
The whole feel about it is just a better environment. But at the end of the day, it's a business. As I said, we just did another live stream. Then we're a little bit deflated about the whole ASO
there definitely wasn't as much
video
security,
feed.
Was there?
Where?
Now that I think about it, like just looking at all these cops at the Giro, there wasn't as much security.
No, but I think France has a bigger threat.
Yeah, of course it does.
But yeah, so anyway, one thing I will say is the Tour de France do a press centre very well, so we're heading there now. This press room is on a running track. How sick's this?
Le long du truc,
walking through the zone technique area, which is all the media buses and stuff. That's one thing about the Tour de France that is next level. There are literally, mate, there's 100, maybe 200 different massive buses for the teams, and really elaborate buses too that fold out, and they're like transformers. I don't know if you would have seen his face much.
Hopefully not so much for you guys.
But definitely his voice you would have heard on Eurosport. Rob Hatch, he's definitely one of the big up-and-comers, aren't you?
Well, if you say that, I'm happy to take that. Thank you.
I'd say that. But mate, I noticed that you and I actually got to know each other when there was a bit of banter on Twitter.
Yes.
And you were responding. I was just saying to Rob, I love the way he just bangs straight back at the Twitter negative comments. But do you get that much?
Luckily not, no. I think the day in question was when we were talking about the commentary box and the sound of some commentators from different countries, which I don't mind.
Yeah.
I understand some people might mind it, but
yeah.
I was trying to explain to people at home who were watching, who were getting in touch, and giving the courtesy of replying, really, of talking about, well, you know, these working conditions, you know, they're not awful, but we're all very close to each other, within maybe a metre and a half of each other, and yeah, you know, it's not as sanitised as you might think it is. We're not all in individual studios, and I'm sure we're actually stood outside the commentary boxes here right now. There's 4 big lorries with the world's commentary teams stacked inside. So there's a lot of us working in close proximity.
Yeah. How did you get into this?
How did I get into it? I studied languages and then got very lucky. Somebody liked the sound of my voice. I'm not sure why, but still here, 10 years after starting broadcasting. So yeah, I studied French, Spanish and Italian at university, lived abroad. I mean, I lived in Spain on and off since I was 17 anyway, so I mean, more or less feel Spanish. There's certain extent as well as British. And then I did a master's degree in Madrid, and that was sponsored by Eurosport. So afterwards I went to do 3 months work experience in Paris at their headquarters, and ended up staying for a year and a bit doing the news there, and everything just went from there. And we're all freelance now, so we work for different people. That's correct, yeah.
So you don't actually work for Eurosport?
No, well, for the next month I do. But I mean, I've done 2 tours with the BBC on the radio. I do classics for World Feed, which is for the race organisers, and I do other sports in winter as well.
And so obviously in Australia we've got Matty Keenan.
Yeah, he's working really hard, by the way, everybody
Is
at home
he?
watching. Yeah, I spoke to him just before he went on air, and he's doing really long hours. He's working really hard for you all.
Is this true?
It's really true, seriously, yeah. And he was talking about his good relationship with Robin McEwen as well, and yeah, those guys really get on. And I think from the little snippets that I've heard from the clips, it comes across on air as well. So it's a good partnership.
Now it's sort of almost like they've taken the reins. How do you?
They have for you guys, yeah. But Phil and Paul are still here working for United States television. They're working for NBC, and they're hanging around as well. I'm not sure they're doing the sort of flag to line coverage like your guys are down in Australia and we are at Eurosport, and although we're extremely lucky to have 2 different commentary teams, so we're splitting it up to try and save a bit of energy. Remember, 21 stages, marathon, not a sprint.
I know.
But yeah, there's maybe a bit of a change, the guard in the English language world, but I mean, Phil and Paul are still about, and they're still very recognisable and legendary voices of cycling, aren't they?
Who'd you look at and go, I want to be like them?
I used to look at Richie Benaud.
Is that?
Yeah, he was my commentary hero when I was a kid, because I used to watch a lot of cricket, used to listen to a lot of the radio as well, and Richie Benaud not only worked on television in UK, but also we used to get my dad used to record overnight the Channel 9 cricket when I was a kid, just to wake up and watch the videos when I was 5 and 6 of all the Aussie commentary team that have been much taken the mickey out of by Billy Birmingham and all the rest of those guys down under, but yeah, and maybe Henry Blofeld as well, British commentator who's commentated all the Test match special guys, and that's something we're actually trying to bring to cycling now on Eurosport, with swapping the commentators around a few times a day and trying to keep it fresh for 6 hours.
Yeah, going back to the internet,
yeah,
and people that have a go at Eurosport for the commentaries, how do you deal with that? How do you not let it get you down?
Good question. That's something that's pretty hard. I mean, you have to have a thick skin, which is something I've probably struggled with a little. I mean, you want to be liked, don't you? You want to be, if you're a nice person, you want to be friends with everybody, and I suppose it's a slow learning process that not everybody is going to like you, and you have to begin to accept that. Some of the problems I have is it's difficult to understand what we do, and it's difficult for some people to understand that we have to try and aim for middle of the road in a lot of things. We present evidence, we present facts, but we can't go on a lot of internet conspiracy theories, about what might be the correct thing happening, wrongdoing in the sport. We really can't get bogged down in that. We have to call the race, yes, present facts, present evidence, present news stories, but call the race as we see it, and that is our job primarily, not necessarily to give opinion. That's down to the experts. Our job as race callers is to call the race and try and maybe educate people about a region if it's a quiet day, or a language, or a different culture. I mean, 21 days around France, there's a lot of the time in the race when there's nothing happening in terms of racing.
Yeah. What do you feel is the most challenging part of your job? Is it the research of the riders, or what is it?
Yeah, the research is the most time consuming. I mean, I spend weeks and weeks and months even during the off season putting together Word documents, putting together bits of things that I might want to talk about for the season ahead, and then for each race I'll do a multi-page document that will talk about riders, that will talk about stages, where we're going, and that evolves during the race as well. And tonight I get to the hotel, and if we have decent internet, you never know in certain parts of the world, and certain hotels, if we have something that resembles an internet connection, we'll try and get some information on tomorrow. And certainly for the flat stages like today, we're recording on stage 4 today, nothing's happening, only one king of the mountains, 4th category, so 1 point and 1 breakaway rider away. Poor Guillaume van Kersbroek trying to motivate himself. Yeah, we try to find little bits of information throughout, and I would say the research is probably the most taxing part.
Yeah, I noticed you've got the name pronunciation down pat. That would be a huge part of your job. Yeah,
certainly for the languages I don't speak. I mean, I speak 4 languages, well, 3.5. Those of you who know I'm from the north of England would say that my English isn't that great, but yeah, I can get the Latin language names fine. Then you have to research the rest, because I think it's a basic common courtesy. I'm not expecting everybody everybody at home to say the names perfectly. That's normal. But if I'm the one giving it out on the telly, then yeah, I think that's the minimum requirement of our job, is to be polite enough to someone to at least try and get it right. And if we're not getting it right, then please tell us, because we want to get it right.
Here with Walter and Leon, and they're photographers for the Tour de France. Leon's a former rider. I don't know about...
No, I'm not a former rider.
But we're talking about camping. These boys are camping the whole, pretty much sort of 50-50, which I think's admirable. 95%. But
For me, yes.
What's the plan?
Last week also, yeah.
So you're camping out tonight?
Yeah, sure. We have already booked our places, and it's fun, man. It's enjoyable.
What, two-man tent or big tent?
No.
Single
one.
tents.
Single tents?
Yes, small ones,
okay.
and
You had me worried. I thought it was a single tent for both of you. That's cuddly.
No.
All right, legends, I'm here with Francois yet again, the man, the knowledge bucket that he is. You just did the cycling podcast.
Yeah.
How'd it go?
Fine. No, it was
Quality.
quite fun. Yeah, listen to it.
Listen to the cycling podcast, guys.
Yeah.
But what do you think about Sagan getting axed today? It's pretty unreal.
We discuss. Everybody in the press room and everywhere is discussing it. It's probably fair. I mean, it's always very tricky. A sprint is such a hard-fought battle anyway. So I guess that if it just swerved a little bit to the right when Cav tried to overtake him, well, they probably would be both out of the Tour anyway, because they would have crashed. And but I guess on TV it was shown that the move with the elbow was a little bit outrageous, and my impression is that that's what really made the difference. Everybody on TV saw that elbows suddenly stick out and block the way for Cav to make his move. So actually in the first place the suspension, the jury, the commissaire as it's called, the UCI jury just decided to punish Peter Sagan a little bit, like 30 seconds penalty, disqualified back to the back of the bench, but not out of the Tour. And then guys from Dimension Data, Roger Hammond and Rolf Hardak, came to the commissaire saying it's unfair. Cav is probably out of the Tour, is in hospital, and Sagan, who probably did the wrong thing, is still in the race. So maybe there was a little bit of pressure from Lotto Soudal, and in the same time, my impression is also that the jury maybe were a little bit harsh because it's Peter Sagan, because they've been accused in the past of being too lenient, and and people would say, the race jury can't kick out the biggest star of cycling out of the Tour de France, and they proved they could do it. So I think in the minds of the jury, they thought, if we don't kick him out, we're going to have lots of criticism saying, the UCI have no guts, they're not banning Peter Sagan because it's Peter Sagan, and so they probably had a point to make. Look, this is the biggest star in a sport, is the character, the flamboyant character everybody loves, but if he does something wrong, he's punished like the rest. So that was my impression on the day.
Tomorrow?
La Planche de Belleville, it's a stage Chris Froome knows well, because he won the first time there was a race there. He won it. It was a funny thing actually, because he won it, and it was a day when there was a little bit of problems with there had been problem with Bradley Wiggins on who is the real Team Sky leader. So. This year maybe there can be a leadership kind of quarrel between him and Geraint Thomas. No, I don't think there is. Geraint Thomas said to everybody, "I'm here for Froome. I'll do what I'll stick to the team plan, and I'll do whatever they tell me to do tomorrow." So. Everybody thinks Richie Porte is going to attack, because it's obviously a climb that suits him well, and it'll be the first test of strength between them. If Richie attacks, will Sky react? How will they react? Will there be gaps at the finish? No. I mean, the only times there was a real gap at the top of Planche de Belleville was the year when Vincenzo Nibali won the Tour, and that year it was so superior to the rest of the guys. He'd won, on more or less flat terrain in Yorkshire. He then won on La Planche de Belleville. He won everything that year. He was way too strong. Tomorrow, most of the riders I talked to think, that's going to be a first test, a first battle, but there shouldn't be real gaps. It shouldn't be too difficult. And the guys to look out for, well, obviously the usual suspects, Chris Froome and Richie Porte, maybe others, but normally we shouldn't see any of the GC contenders lose too much time on the climb.
We're in France.
Is that it? Was that the border?
That's the border.
All right, we just passed over the border and it doesn't look any different whatsoever.